cut our hair is very sacred. They're taking away who we are. Now, when somebody passes away, out of respect, we'll cut our hair. And that shows that we had a real great respect for that person. When my mother passed away, I cut it real short. And when my father passed away, same thing, cut it real short. It is neat, and as you get older, it doesn't grow as fast. I hope not too many people pass, because I like my hair. Any other questions? Anybody else have any questions? Don't be shy, man.
Did you talk about some of the instruments yet?
Oh, I didn't get a chance to talk about the instruments. Now, as a little boy, I've been back in Texas, in Corpus Christi, Texas. My grandfather, we would sit and we have these things called resaca. They're man-made lakes. And my grandfather used to take me there. And we'd sit there and we'd look at the water. And being 5 years old, you're thinking, okay, water, let's go. But he was teaching me about patience. And my grandfather looked at me, he says, you want a Big Red? And back then, Big Red was a soda, and it was very popular. That's like, over here, it's like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. That's what that was. And my grandfather used to carry a little bag with him, a little square bag. And I would ask my grandfather, hey, Grandpa, what's in the bag? He says, oh, you don't want to know. I go, no, I want to know. No, you don't want to know. Because if I tell you, you're not going to have the soda. That's okay. And of all the grandkids, he realized that, wow, this is the one that wants to learn. So he opened it up, and he showed me a flute. And I looked at it and thought, wow, that's kind of neat. And so he put it to his lips, and he started playing. I was so shocked. Wow, that sounds cool. So my grandfather, we sat there that night, just playing. He just kept playing and playing and playing. Now, my grandfather, when we went to Brownsville, Texas, it's right on the border of Matamoros and Mexico and Texas. There's resacas there. For some reason, my grandfather would take a little boat, and he would stand on this little boat. I could never do it because I used to fall. And he would go, and then he would plant the pole, he'd wrap it, and he would play at the cemetery for the people. As a kid, my aunt would tell me, go get your grandfather, tell him it's time to eat. And as a kid, they had brochures. There was a bus company called Trailways. They used to take people from here to there. And they would stop to see my grandfather at this time. And Trailways would actually, Greyhound and Trailways would stop there to see him. And they would talk about an Indian man that used to play for the spirits. And he was playing because he likes food. But he would go, and I remember sitting at the graveyard. And back in Texas, the graves were huge, they were old, from 1800s. And I would look, and I would watch my grandfather, and I would ask my grandfather, Grandpa, why do you play at a funeral, or the cemetery? It's kind of spooky. He goes, there's some souls that are lost, and they need to make their way back home. He goes, that's why you need to start playing the flute, because it makes people happy, it makes them excited, it puts a good feeling in their heart. So he started teaching me. When I was 7, he taught me how to make the flute. And I was all excited. And that day, that night, when we finished the flute, my grandfather says, okay, let's go to bed. In the morning, we'll practice. So, 7 years old, I grabbed my flute, ran to my grandfather's room. I was like, Grandpa. I go, it's time. I said, it's time. It's daylight. Let's go. And I remember touching him. He was cold. Get past. So I remember, it was kind of weird. 7 years old, you're not understanding why he's so cold. Get him a blanket. Cold to the touch. And he had passed. And I remember telling my aunt, and my aunt screaming, and I remember that horrible scream. So I was like, wow, and they mentioned that he had passed away. And so that point, that's where a lot of my flute playing comes from. Kind of almost melancholy. So I have certain ones that play really well. This one here, believe it or not, it was a pallet that was thrown away. And that's my thing. Anything I make jewelry, I make chokers, I make all kinds of stuff. But my thing is, the things that people throw away that could be used for something else, that's what I want to do. I want to try to use other things up. This one here, this is a totally traditional flute. Has not seen any machinery whatsoever. Nothing that was plugged in. A flute like this will take me 5 hours to make. This one took about 6 months. So this is very traditional. Then I have different flutes. I have the cane flute. Now what's interesting about the river cane, if social service knew about what had happened, they would have taken me away. My grandfather was telling me, okay, we need to go get river cane. So I said, all right. Back in Texas, there's the water moccasin, which are snakes. Right in the middle of the snapping turtle, they bite. And the way at the bottom are the big catfish. And back home, you can stick your hand in the catfish, and they're about as tall as, we would stand a catfish up, he'd be about this tall from the floor. So they're big. So my grandfather would tell me, he goes, you need to learn how to breathe underwater. How do you breathe underwater? He goes, we have brothers on the other side of the world. They're called Aborigines. They play a thing, a tube, like our flute. And they do a thing called circular breathing. And my grandfather taught me how to circular breathe. So he gets this big old wash pan, stick it with water, put my head underwater. And he pulled me back up. He goes, can you breathe? Hair's all going to the side. So finally, he explained to me what I needed to do. So when I go underwater, I can actually breathe. I blow bubbles, and it catches in my nose. I'll get a little bit of water in, but I can still breathe a little bit. Stay underwater. That's what the Japanese pearl divers do. The Aborigines. They do that kind of style. So when I play a flute, I can play for a long time. People go, wow, you have to be big to do that. No, because we do circular breathing. So my grandfather told me, he goes, okay, go in the water. See that river cane over there? And I go, yeah. You got to go underwater and dig it up and then pull it out. You can't cut it, because if you cut it, it splits. That's why you see a lot of my bamboo flutes, I'll put like this sinew so it won't split. And so I'm going, okay. So I was underwater and taking a deep breath, go under. Oh, before you go, you have to throw rocks way over there. The reason being is because the water moccasins think there's somebody over there, but they'll start swimming over there. The water moccasins, if they bite you, you're dead. So, 7-year-old kid, you know, yeah, social service, but it's took in a heartbeat. So I go underwater and I see I see the snapping turtle. Great, but they won't mess with you unless you mess with them. Then I'm going further and I'm getting underwater and I'm holding on to the bamboo or the river cane, and I'm digging it and digging it and digging it, and finally popped it out. So I'm going back up to the water. I come up to my grandfather and I go. He reaches into his pocket, goes slow, gets a quarter. It's not going to work. We'll get another one. Well, give me the quarter. I'll go on top. That's the one.
And when you are a child, are you scared when you swim?
Oh man, I was scared to death, man. Because the water, when you go in, it's dark. You can't see. You know, there's some water where you can go in and you can open your eyes. You can see some shadows. But the water is very murky. It's a man-made lake, so it's mud and all that stuff. And you'll be walking and all of a sudden you can step on a catfish and like. So, yeah, you can't see underwater or anything, man. It's hard.
You don't have this experience on the water when you swim?
What's that?
You don't have a bad experience with swimming? A snake or something like that?
Yeah, I did almost get bit by a water moccasin one time. Man, you never seen a little fat kid swim so fast. I was gone, man. I was like, I could have been the Olympics. That's how fast I was gone. Those things, they bite them, that's it, and you're gone. You know, they won't have time to take you to the hospital. You're dead. But, you know, the thing with the quarter, that's what my grandfather showed me. So anytime that I had to make a flute, I mean, the tourists would come by and they would want to buy one of my flutes. So I'm thinking, wow, I can make $5. $5 compared to your life? I'm like, oh. So I'd match up a quarter. Oh, good, this one fits. This will work. So I can make them. And that's how I made my flute. So it's a trip to come across that. There's different ones. There's 5-hole. This is a 5-hole. Now the reason you guys see this one, you guys are going to get a chance to come and look at them. The reason this one is twisted like this, I used to teach people how to play flute. There was a lady, her husband came to me with a doctor, and he needed to stop smoking. And they wanted him to stop. And the only way he could stop, he liked Native American stuff. He liked this about Native Americans, this. And so the doctor says, I know a kid that's going to change your life. So he heard me play the flute. And the guy goes, I want to play that flute. I want to be. I said, well, number one, you got to stop smoking. You can't smoke anymore. The guy quit. I was amazed. He quit, stopped smoking. Well, he ended up passing away. He played very well. Matter of fact, we would perform together. He got that good. His wife, within time, had arthritis, I think it is, where her fingers started to turn. And that was the only thing that kept her calm and happy. So I had to figure out a way how to make it so she can still play the flute. So I did this pattern, and it worked. So I was like happy. So I ended up keeping one to remind me how to do it. I have this one. This is a traditional Apache style flute. A young boy will always have this with him. He will always have a canyon, what we call a canyon flute. Usually when you play in the canyons, you can hear it for almost 8 miles. We play the flute, and we'll sing into that. Something like that. I have a double flute.
That's amazing.
I'm sorry?
That's amazingly beautiful.
It is.
Wow.
I started hanging around with a lot of the Mayans, the Aztec guys, and we make clay flutes too. We make little clay flutes. This one's kind of been done recently, so that's this one. I have another one that I use for actually bird calls. It's kind of neat because I take this to the beach, seagulls start to respond. This was actually given to me, but it sounds like a frog. Basically, I have a lot of flutes, There's this one. This one I hardly ever play much because it does remind me of my grandfather. There's the scream. I will never forget that scream that my aunt did. Now, we have rattles. So this rattle is actually the same rattle they use in Morongo. There's a Morongo, Changa, Saboba. There's a group called the Bird Singers. And they're a bunch of men, and they stand there. And they start singing their song. They wear shirts like this, traditional ribbon shirts. And they just sing these songs. The way these are made, the handle is made out of cottonwood. Now the Apache people, we don't cut wood. If it's alive, we leave it alone. If it's a dead plant, we'll take it. And inside are little tiny crystals that the ants come from the bottom. What I do is I get some food, I put it on the anthill, make an offering to them. It's like trading them. Put the food there. I come back the next day, and there's a pile of little crystals that they kick out. So it's like they're giving me that back. So then I put it inside, and then you can hear them. This is a totally traditional rattle. This one is the same thing, but the only difference is that they have the palm trees, the seeds from the palm trees. They only drop in July. And so, yeah, July. And they use this one for bear dance, for the bear ceremony. And that's an interesting ceremony. They dress up as bears and they go and dance around. They start making these noises like bears. It's trippy. We ask people don't bring dogs or anything like that because the dogs start to freak out, man. Because they sound like bears. You know, like this, as you guys see, this is what we call a thunder drum. This is something I didn't make. It's made by a company called Remo. The owner is called Remo Bella, and they've been around in business since 1957. They make drums and drum heads. They started out with drum heads, but they make all kinds of percussion instruments now. And I do a lot of the storytelling for Remo. And they also have a lot of people like Leon Mobley. He does the signature drumming for the djembe drums. Those are African drums. I make drums myself. Make hand drums, but I also make the African drums, the taiko drums, Japanese style drums. Make all kinds. But this is kind of a neat one. A lot of people like this drum.
It's amazing that that kind of sound can come from that little thing.
Yeah. Well, I use it because Remo Bella made this sound like a thunder. And I was like, oh wow. And it took me back home when we would go in the canyons. This is what we usually do. Back home, and Remo Bella was like, you can sing it? So, the first one he gave me was this one, and he was shocked, and then he made a bigger one, and then he gave me that one as well. So Remo, you can go to remo.com, and they have a lot of drumming events you can go to. It's in North Hollywood, but they're really neat programs that you can go to. Remo, REMO.com. Go into community, and they have different programs like those. If you want to learn like Cuban style drumming, you know, they have that, like Latin style music. They have a thing called a cajon, the box. Those are
I like this sound. I don't know why, but I like
this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people like this. This is another one thing he gave me. This thing's a trip. Basically like an ocean. Sounds like an ocean.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at it this way, it looks neat. It looks like you're underwater. So just don't do it too long because you end up like This is one of the traditional drums that I make. These are the type of drums that we use for ceremony. Like when we go into sweat lodge, singing and stuff. And the reason that it has the picture on there, somebody steals it, I know it's mine. The cop asked me, how do I know? I got it tattooed on my arm. So that's actually one of the drums that's really good. I make this kind. There's like one called the octagon. I make the powwow drums. I make the big, huge ones. And I also bend the rings. I'm one of the few people that can actually make wooden rings like this. Because normally we do them in sections. We actually do them like this.
You want a new page?
I think. Okay, basically it's like this. like that. What's that? No, it's actually an octagon, 8-sided drum. And I make powwow drums like this, but a lot of the guys, when I make them drums, they like this one. They like the way it sounds. And then like in the back, I did this back and that. Usually I put like 2.
How long does it take you to make a drum like that?
To make a drum, it takes about 2-3 hours. Now a lot of people always ask, oh, I want a drum, I want a drum. And I came up with a program to where you can actually make it yourself. And I show you. That way when you have the drum, you're going to have a lot more respect for the drum. Now the drum for us is the heartbeat of Mother Earth. And that's what's important to us, that drum. So now that you guys saw some of the stuff, you guys are more than welcome to come and check it out. Just please be careful, but you guys can look at it. If you guys have any questions, by all means, ask away.
How do you wait? What if someone's born or getting married?
Well,